beauties, this is Sam from Instant Beauty. So I decided to film what not to do when you have extensions video. I have so many what to expect and what to do when you get extensions, but never a what not to do. So these are my top 5 rules for what not to do when you get extensions. So my first rule of what not to do is not to bleach or lighten the extensions. Most of the time, extensions come already dyed or bleached, so to re-lighten them is typically a no-no. Like 99.999% of the time, it will not work well. You won't get the results you want, or it'll damage the extension. So because of the process of the extensions, what happens to them chemically before you even get them, you don't know exactly what happens, so it's not a good idea to lighten them. Keep in mind you can darken them a few shades if you want to color them darker, but I don't recommend to lighten them or bleach them. So my next what not to do when you have extensions is not to brush your extensions when they're wet. So like to use an actual brush. I recommend to use a wide tooth comb. I've said this a million times in my different videos, but it's a really big tip because if you were to brush your hair especially when they're tangled, when they're wet, you can cause a lot of breakage. You could cause the extensions to slip out. It's just a lot of damage to the extension, unnecessary, because the best thing to do, and what I suggest to do, is to use a detangle spray before going at it with a brush or anything, and comb them out with a wide tooth comb. So if you have excessive tangles, use a wide tooth comb so that way you don't damage the hair. It's much safer and you won't lose any extensions. So my next rule of what not to do when you get extensions, you don't want to use a really hot styling tool. Most girls, they'll crank up their straightener to 420 degrees or the highest setting that it could go. And yes, it might give you, a nice long-lasting curl or straighten, but I don't recommend doing that when you have extensions. First of all, I suggest using a thermal protectant, like a heat protectant, so then this way you are protecting your extensions and your own hair. And use a mild setting, or like a medium setting on your straightener or curling iron, and even your blow dryer. And as a side tip, if you have fusion extensions, do not use a blow dryer on high heat for sure, because you may actually melt the glue and you'll end up with a big mess, or more likely your extensions will just slip out because the glue is now soft. So no matter what type of extension you have, I don't recommend to use a high heat setting, and especially if you're not using a heat protectant spray. So my next what not to do rule is don't cut your extensions yourself, unless you know what you're doing. For the most part, I've made a few videos on how to actually cut your extensions yourself, because a lot of times you're buying extensions online or you get them done and the person doesn't cut them for you, and then you realize you have your short hair and then the super long extensions and it just looks ridiculous. It doesn't look natural. I get it. But the biggest mistake people can make is trying to cut them themselves, because then you have to basically redo everything or order them again if they're too short or they're cut weird or something. So I don't recommend to do it. Unless really you've practiced before, or you've done your research and watched my videos. No, seriously, but go to a professional, somebody who knows how to cut extensions specifically, not just hair, because it's different. So yeah, that's my tip. Don't cut them yourself, because you'll probably ruin them. So my final rule of what not to do is don't go to sleep with wet extensions. Or if you have clip-ins, don't go to sleep with clip-ins at all, because clip-ins can actually cause bald spots when you are rolling around and they're clipped in there really tight. They can actually snag the hair and it's a big disaster. I have so many clients that have bald spots from sleeping with clip-ins. But anyways, my main point though is to not sleep with extensions when they're wet. So don't go to bed with wet hair, basically. Because depending on the method that you have on, whether it be fusion or tape, the water can seep in and actually cause them to fall out sooner than you want. As well as, just any kind of extension can really tangle up when it's wet. So to go to sleep with it wet, you're probably going to end up with a big mess in the morning that you're going to have to deal with. So I recommend to at least semi-dry your hair before bed and comb it out nicely and then put it up, either in a high ponytail or in 2 pigtails or something, some way that it's comfortable for you to sleep and that the extensions won't be matting. Those are my main 5 what not to do rules. So I hope you guys learned something. If you have any of your own tips, please feel free to leave them below. And if you are not already subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. And I will see you again in another video. Bye, guys.